Welcome to the Game View. This is the final installment of the 2015 season. As the Packers season is over with, it ended in the divisional round of the playoffs to the Cardinals. The Packers gave the Cardinals a much better game this time around, but in a wild and wacky finish, the Packers once again went down in some ways similar to how they went out last year, with failures in the end of the game and in overtime that cost them a chance to move on. The Cardinals in their first possession went 3-and-out. In fact, could have been first interception of the game for Sam Shields. Him dropping possible interceptions would end up being a big key to this game. But it was a 3-and-out. Cardinals had the punt. Wasn't a particularly great punt. Micah Hyde had a nice return to get the Packers near midfield. Looks like they would start their first offensive possession near midfield. Instead, a holding call on Nate Palmer pushed the Packers all the way back to the 17-yard line. After two plays, which included a false start, all they were able to do was get back to the 17-yard line. And here they faced their first third down of the game. It's 3rd and 10. The Cardinals here, they are bluffing an all-blitz look. They actually are going to blitz 6 on this play. The Packers have Eddie Lacy in the backfield, and therefore they have the ability to block all 6. They have 6 blockers. And we're going to see the Packers do a pretty good job as far as communication goes. Everybody takes a man. Everybody is accounted for. Unfortunately, Eddie Lacy does not do a particularly good job of blocking his man. David Bakhtiari kind of gets pushed around to the outside, which would force Rodgers to step up. Unfortunately, Rodgers can't step up because Eddie Lacy is being pushed back into his face. So Rodgers basically just has to get rid of this one and ends up at least getting rid of it. And so not taking a sack, which would have pushed the Packers even back further on their punt. Here comes the pass. That at least had some sort of chance for Abbrederis, but it ends up being incomplete, and the Packers are going to punt from there. Now, as you take one more quick look at this is something that I've talked about just about all year, and that is, should the Packers bother running this out to Randall Cobb from the slot, because they ran it all year. Rodgers really showed a refusal, a hesitancy to throw this ball. Once again, this is a situation where if Rodgers would have keyed on Cobb and just thrown this out, that might have been there, had to have been a good throw, but this certainly could have been a first down here for the Packers if Rodgers would have centered on Cobb and thrown that out, but he didn't do it. Once again, we saw that all year, Rodgers refusing to throw that route, and this would end up being a 3-and-out for the Packers. To make it worse, the Tim Mistay would be one of the MVPs of the game for the Cardinals, would come onto the field and only kick a 37-yard kick with very little hang time, that Patrick Peterson would return nearly to the 40-yard line, where the Cardinals would start their next possession, and they would end up getting the first touchdown of the game off that short drive. Okay, this is the Cardinals' first touchdown of the game. This is going to make it 7-0 Cardinals. This play looks very familiar to the first time the Packers played the Cardinals, as it's third down, 3rd and goal here. So this is a big play chance for the Packers to force the Cardinals to settle for a field goal. The Packers, once again, are just going to sit in a zone, which is exactly how they played it when they played the Cardinals the first time. Didn't work then, doesn't work now either, even though this is actually fairly good defense here. Once again, the Packers are going to drop Julius Peppers in the coverage. Normally, I really don't see any sense in that. However, here it does have the benefit that it essentially takes Larry Fitzgerald away on this play. Fitzgerald cannot go inside because of Peppers. When he turns outside, he just ends up running into a couple other Packers. So he is really neutralized. There's really nowhere to go on this side of the field. Fortunately for the Cardinals, Carson Palmer is looking strictly to the right side, where he's got a 2-man route. This is a route that is designed to beat the zone. It's essentially flooding the right zone. This defender here, Sam Shields, he really can't cover both of these guys. He takes the inside guy, the shorter guy away, which is kind of what you have to do, because that's the easier pass. Is going to make Carson Palmer throw it over the top of him. However, this is the benefit of having a taller receiver. And here, Floyd just runs to the pylon. He's a taller guy that helps against the zone. And Carson Palmer knows he can just throw it up there and have Floyd go and get it. This is a perfectly thrown ball. Great placement. Actually, not terrible coverage by Burnett here. But not really anything, not really the defense's fault there. Just good offense beats good defense, and that's a perfect pass to a tall receiver right into the corner of the end zone, and that would be 7-0 Arizona. It's still 7-0. It is 3rd and 4 here. The Packers have the ball near midfield as the first quarter is about to run out. This is actually the last play of the first quarter. And Aaron Rodgers catches the Cardinals with 12 men on the field. So this is going to be a free down for the Packers. Unfortunately, during the same play, Brian Bulaga gets called for illegal hands to the face, which wipes the play out. The big reason why I'm showing this play, it's not like we all really needed to see it again, but this is a huge play in the game because on this play is the last play that Randall Cobb would play in 2015 for the Packers. Here, once again, we know this is a free play, so Rodgers is going to be a little more freewheeling here. But once again, you see the receiver really is not open, which goes more again into my point that the receiver doesn't have to be open to throw this ball out there. Rodgers, in this case, of course, right when it doesn't matter, Rodgers actually ends up throwing an absolutely perfect pass here. Randall Cobb uses one hand to hold the defender off and the other hand to catch the ball. Makes a spectacular catch here. Unfortunately, he bruises his lung in the process and would be out for the remainder of the game. The Packers came into this game with only a ridiculous 4 active receivers on their roster. And so then they lose their top receiver at the last play of the first quarter. And now they would have to play with 3 receivers for the remainder of the game. Okay, this is the same drive. Packers have the ball. This is going to be a deep shot to Jeff Janis, who's now on the field. Janis played very well in this game. He had more chances than we were able to take advantage of. Uh, I really love the attitude that Aaron Rodgers had in this game. He was much more determined to get the ball out of his hands, to not leave the pocket when he didn't need to throw the ball on time, and get the ball into some tight spaces. He threw some very accurate passes that helped the Packers move the ball on 3rd down. Their 3rd down conversion rate was more of what it needs to be. And Rodgers was a little bit more like his old self on 3rd downs. And if Rodgers can carry this kind of attitude into the future, regular season or not, but into the playoff games at least, then I really like his chances and the Packer chances to win playoff games and get to another Super Bowl in the future. We've seen in the recent past Rodgers play games not to lose, and he needs to play games to win. He played this game to win, and he gave the Packers a chance when they were really understaffed in this game. He gave the Packers a chance to win this game. However, that being said, something else that Rodgers needs to work on and hopefully be better with next year is the deep ball. He really struggled with throwing the ball down the field this year, and he struggled in this game to connect on the deep ball. Here we're going to see on this play, Jeff Janis is going to go deep from the stack formation, and Jeff Janis is gone. Defenders just seem to kind of have a tendency to underrate how fast he is, and he is going to run right by the defender, and even just a middle-of-the-road NFL quarterback shouldn't be able to led Jeff Janis where he could have caught this ball in the end zone. That is well underthrown. That ball needed to be another 2 to 4 or 5 yards downfield from where it was, and that would have been an easy touchdown there for the Packers. But downfield problems throwing the ball accurately downfield would plague Rodgers all year and in this game. All right, I don't want to beat this into the ground here. Again, Aaron Rodgers played a pretty good game, but again, this is going to illustrate some of his difficulties with throwing the ball downfield. Here, the Packers are going to run a post route with Jeff Janis. This is the kind of route that the Packers would have Jordy Nelson run. You're going to see here that Janis again has a great chance to make a touchdown here for the Packers. He's got inside position. This is a play where the quarterback can lead the receiver across the field and just throw this as far across the field as he wants. Let Janis run to it. And Janis has got inside position. The defender is not going to have any chance to stop it if this ball is just thrown to Janis's inside anywhere. Instead, Aaron Rodgers throws this ball all the way out the back of the end zone. I don't know what that pass is. That's not even close to where it should be. This is something for Aaron Rodgers to work on for next season to get his accuracy back to where it should be. There's just no reason for throwing this ball 5 yards out of the back of the end zone. The Rumble in the Desert. For the start of the second half here, both teams were kind of going nowhere. An Aaron Rodgers interception that was both a bad decision and terribly underthrown pass was picked off, was taken away from the Cardinals. Cardinals ended up getting nothing out of it because Clinton Dix came back, continued his stellar play in the playoffs, and picked off a Carson Palmer pass that gave the ball right back to the Packers. And it seemed like neither offense was just ready to do much of anything in the half until Eddie Lacy managed to rip off a 61-yard run here to set the Packers up for the touchdown or give them the lead. Just great blocking here by the Packers offensive line. Get downfield. TJ Lang's the one there that's spraying that. Most running backs at this point in the NFL would have been gone, but Eddie Lacy's kind of carrying an entire buffet line with him. And he manages to rumble and bumble and stumble his way for a 61-yard gain down inside the 10-yard line for the Packers. This had to be kind of like slow torture for Cardinal fans on this one. But regardless, this was a play that really opened it up for the Packers, and shortly later they would have the lead, and would kind of look like the Packers might actually be able to grind and tough this one out. All right, it's 3rd and goal here for the Packers. This is a situation where we've seen the Packers fail all year. Aaron Rodgers and the Packer offense used to be absolutely spectacular on 3rd downs in the red zone, but that wasn't the case this year. They've struggled with it. And here, Aaron Rodgers is actually going to make something happen that he was unable to make for most of the regular season. He was able to make a great play getting out of the pocket here, and then he was able to do something once he was out of the pocket. Kept his eyes downfield, looking for someone to get open. He's able to draw a couple defenders up towards him. Jeff Janis does a good job to cut inside, and Rodgers finds him on the pass for a fairly easy touchdown there. That's a big play for the Packers. It's a big play for Jeff Janis and for Aaron Rodgers that helped look like the Packer offense might be able to keep its mojo, and actually, like I said before, look like the Packers might actually have enough, even with the missing parts, to pull this game out and win this game. But such, of course, would not end up being the case. Okay, this is the next drive for the Cardinals. By this point, this is the start of 4th quarter. But at this point, the Cardinals, they're starting to get in a pretty good rhythm against the Packer defense. Packer defense has been strong against them all game. But here, they've by this time, they're starting to gain momentum. They just went down and kicked a field goal to make it 13-10. Now they have another drive that's going to get themselves deep in the Packer territory before Demarius Randall interception is going to take points off the board for the Cardinals. And we're going to see here, the Packers are playing a 3-deep zone here. They actually would play, they would go to, in the second half, more of these zones. And as we have seen all year, the Packers are not particularly good at playing zone. Here they're sitting in a 3-deep. Demarius Randall, he's got deep. They got a safety in the middle of the field deep, and Sam Shields has got the deep right side. And this is a route that's pretty perfect for this kind of defense, as the guy from the slot is going deep. That takes some of the coverage with him, while the guy on the outside just stops right at the first down marker, and that's an easy completion, and then he's going to pick up about another 8 yards by running it inside the 10. Again, only a Demarius Randall interception would stop the Cardinals here from getting more points on the board, as they are starting to gain momentum, working against a lot of zone for the Packers. Okay, I'm going to show you 2 key plays in a row here. This is 2nd and 2 after David Johnson managed an 8-yard run. It was his best run of the game. And it's a key play here. Not only does B.J. Raji stuff this play, and it ends up being a 2-yard loss, but this actually should have been a holding call, and it should have knocked it back to 2nd and 12. Packers definitely would have taken the penalty, because that would have knocked the Cardinals possibly out of field goal range. So they definitely would have taken the penalty. Should have been called, as you're going to see here. Not only Raji, but LaTroy Guion gets through the line, and he is held rather ridiculously in the backfield here. You can see the guy with the back of his jersey just hanging on to the back of his jersey, not letting go. I have no idea. There was a ref standing right here. I have no idea how the ref does not throw a flag here. Should have been flagged. Ended up being a good play for the Packers anyway, obviously, but still, you would have preferred to have that holding call there versus just the stop. The way that the Cardinals were picking apart the zone defense of the Packers at this point, you could say, well, it would have been 2nd down, so they still would have had a chance to do something, but just should have been called regardless. Here is the next play is a big play. It's going to be a 1st down for the Cardinals, and this play should have told the Packers to never play this zone again. Instead, they would play it again. They'd end up losing the game on a defense similar to this zone. Here they're actually blitzing Demarius Randall off the corner to no effect. And they're sitting in a zone, and pretty much everybody is open. Again, Palmer could just dump it out here to Fitzgerald. Nobody's covering him. Could dump it out here to the running back. That looks like a pretty easy first down that way. And as the play develops, Michael Floyd here is going to have a touchdown going down the sideline. If Palmer would have threw him the ball, he's got an easy touchdown here. As you see, once again, the Packer defense also move away from Fitzgerald and pretty much completely forget about him just standing here. Instead, Palmer is actually going to throw one of the tougher passes and throw this in here to John Brown. But that is going to be a catch and a first down there for the Cardinals. Could have been a bigger play for the Cardinals, though, and a defense that heralded what was going to happen at the end of the game. And also, if the Packers learned anything, should have told them to not play that zone again. All right, same drive. Another huge play in this drive here is Sam Shields had a chance to win this game, just about win this game for the Packers. Great coverage here by the Packers. They're sitting in a man-to-man this time, and here's Fitzgerald, here's Brown, here's Floyd. They got everybody well covered. So Palmer, I don't know, Carson Palmer's just trying to give the Packers the game at this point. I have no idea what he sees here, but he decides to throw this out here for Floyd, and Shields has got a beat on this, gets his hands on it, but it deflects off of his hands. The Packers' best defensive back at catching the ball dropped 3 in this game. That could have been a touchdown for Shields. Either way, it would have been a huge play for the Packers if he could have caught that ball. Instead, as soon as that ball was dropped, I said game over. And it would end up being a difference maker in the game, obviously. Okay, first and goal. The Packers this time are going to be sitting in their man-to-man coverage. They're doing what I think they should have done all game, which was once Fitzgerald started burning Casey Hayward from the slot, they should have just put Demarius Randall on him and let him cover in him. I don't think that they had to start playing a zone just because they were having a hard time with Fitzgerald. I think they just needed to put either Shields or Randall on Fitzgerald and stay in their zone, stay in their man-to-man, excuse me. Here they got exactly that. They got Randall on Fitzgerald, and he is going to be all over this play. He actually cuts in front of a kind of a rub-off play there, gets his hand out in front. Crazy for Palmer to throw this. This is not open. It's totally covered. There's Packers all over the place. If the Packers all would have just stayed with their receivers right here, this would not have been a touchdown. This could have been a big play for the Packers. Instead, it ends up being the opposite. Sam Shields kind of naturally, once he saw the ball wasn't being thrown to his guy, he let up. His receiver didn't. His receiver kept running into the end zone, and the ball ends up going right to Floyd. And Shields at this point knows what happened there. He knows that he let up, and that's why that ball ended up being a touchdown for the Cardinals. But again, not that I'm really blaming Shields. Again, kind of natural tendency is is to stop there when you see the ball's not thrown to your guy, but end up being deflected right to Shields' guy, and that is a great touchdown for the Cardinals to put them ahead 17-13 with just under 4 minutes left to go in the game. All right, it's 4th and 5 for the Packers. This is a drive before the end of the game. This is a drive. They're only down by 4 points at this point. So if they can go down and get a touchdown, they can win this game in regulation. It's similar scenarios what they were in at the end of regulation in the NFC Championship game last year. They're going to be in a similar situation here where they're not quite going to get it done. This play, unfortunately, I think Aaron Rodgers decided pre-snap. He knows he's got one-on-one with James Jones. Him and Jones have been pretty good on the back shoulder pass, even though Jones is going against Patrick Peterson on this play. And Rodgers has predetermined that is where he is going to throw the ball. He doesn't look anywhere else. He's going into his timing here of just throwing it out there. Unfortunately, he's going to throw a Cordell Stewart pass here, throw this ball into the ground. Just bad pass by Rodgers in a key situation, and the Packers would turn the ball over on downs, and the Cardinals would kick a field goal to then go up 7 and set up the end of this game. Now, what was the primary route being run here, which the Packers run quite often, is a rub play, a pick play of sorts. They have Jeff Janis coming underneath the slot man, who is Abadaris, and this actually works. Once again, Abadaris does pick Janis's guy, and there goes Jeff Janis. Jeff Janis is going to run wide open and he would have had and easily had the first down and probably even a much bigger play. I really would only have this safety to beat to stop him from running for a touchdown on this play that would have put the Packers ahead if Rodgers would have looked to this side instead of deciding from the get-go that he was going to throw it to James Jones. Of course, if Rodgers would have just thrown a better pass to Jones, Jones probably would have had the first down as well. But Jones, since Rodgers threw the ball into the dirt, doesn't really matter who he was throwing it to. All right, well, we all know what happens here, but the Packers would get one last shot at it. This is it with 5 seconds left to go. Two Hail Marys in the same season? Just no way. Just no way. But unbelievable pass. Very smart for the Cardinals to blitz there. Figure you're not going to give us the time to get a pass off, a deep pass off, but Rodgers does a great job to anticipate this and spin out of the pocket and give himself a chance to throw up a desperation heave. Great job to still get the ball to the end zone, and then Jeff Janis skying over two Cardinals to pull that in just barely, and that would end up tying the game. An absolutely crazy finish for the Packers. Unfortunately, the Hail Mary that was completed for the Packers would only lead up to one of the craziest roller coaster rides that you'll ever see in playoff history. As right at one play, the Packers managed to tie the game up on a Hail Mary. Here we are, very first play of the overtime. Cardinals won the toss, just like the Seahawks won the toss to start the overtime off last year in the playoffs. And you had to have that same fear in your belly that the Cardinals were going to score on their first possession and end the game the same way that the Seahawks did. And they wouldn't take any time doing it, as his very first play would be a disaster for the Packers. Here they're actually going to blitz both linebackers and sit in a zone behind it. This is actually, again, one of the Packers' complicated zones, which they have had the tendency to screw up at key times this season. If Larry Fitzgerald goes underneath the coverage of Burnett here, then he is supposed to be left to Julius Peppers. However, if he goes over the top, then Demarius Randall is supposed to take him. Fitzgerald does actually go over the top here, so Randall should have stayed with him. However, Randall saw this guy coming out of his left side of his eye, left corner of his eye, decided to stay out here, like in a 3-deep zone. Absolutely no way you could expect Julius Peppers to cover Fitzgerald here, even if it was his responsibility to do it. And really, instead of dropping Julius Peppers back out, especially when you're on their end of the field, where he really serves no purpose in this play at all, he's really covering nobody. If he would have actually been rushing the passer here, there's very little doubt in my mind that he would have actually sacked Palmer. This would have been a totally different play. He could be sacking Palmer right now instead of just running up to the line. He could have sacked Palmer and this play never would have happened. Instead, it would have been 2nd and long for the Cardinals. Instead, because Peppers was dropped back on this play, now he's got to try to run 15 yards to get to Palmer. Palmer somehow sees Fitzgerald standing by himself all the way on the other side of the field, manages to get that ball out there. Okay, well, it's looking like this play should make it to, let's back that up. It's looking like this play should make it to just past midfield, which the Cardinals still would need to get into the end zone. A field goal is not going to win it. So the Packers have 3 players here, including 3 really their best players on defense. Clay Matthews, Sam Shields, and Clinton Dix are all over here. All they have to do is make sure Fitzgerald either gets down or goes out of bounds, and it's next play. It's going to be all right. The Packers still have a chance in this game. Instead, all 3 of them managed to overrun Fitzgerald, perhaps believing that he was just going to run out of bounds. But Fitzgerald is not going to run out of bounds. He is going to cut back. It's one thing for Sam Shields to have overrun this. Really, really unforgivable for Clinton Dix here to overrun this play. Take himself completely out of it. Stiff arm there for Morgan Burnett like a bitch. And then Casey Hayward actually saves a game-winning touchdown there. Sure, wouldn't end up mattering. The Cardinals would score 2 plays later. But would have been an even more embarrassing loss if they would have scored on that play. So Casey Hayward with briefly saving the Packers there from embarrassment with the game-saving tackle. But as we all know, 2 plays later, Cardinals would win the game, and the Packers would go down in somewhat similar fashion as they did against Seattle last year with blown plays on defense at the end, failure to make a stop in overtime, and that is another big loss for the Packers in the playoffs.